this time of year I always get excited about because it's the one opportunity sometimes that we get to get that first opportunity for a kid to join scouting. I reflect back on my time as a little one, and when I was a little kid, somebody gave me the opportunity to join scouting, and I didn't know at the time how much that would mean to me later on in life. But because of scouting, like many people in this room, we've gotten to experience so many things, and so this is just so important for what we do. One of the questions we get asked a lot of times is, does scouting really work? And so I wanted to share with you briefly the tough study that was done for the Boy Scouts of America a few years ago. And it was a 3-year study that looked at, does scouting really make a difference? Because at the end of the day, this is why we're doing this. And so if you look right here, there's this changing character chart up here. And the ones in green, they represent scouts, and the ones in orange represents non-scouts. And so for a 3-year period, and this happened in the Cradle Liberty Council in Philadelphia, they just studied these kids for 3 years, and they looked at the change it had in character alone. And so in green, they saw changes in cheerfulness, helpfulness, obedience, kindness, hopefulness, and trustworthiness. And so just thinking about where we are right now, that is very, very important for us to be providing these to scouts. And it's just really, really important. And I'll share this slide with you all so you can just have on your own chart. But these are things that we need to make sure that we are providing. We also recently did our own study here in our council. And this one was done by Washington University. And it's we call it the Pathway to Success. And many of you guys may have already seen this. But I always like showing it because it just shows how important scouting is. And so the first one, it talked about character. And then this one, it touched on a couple of more things, but they're just so important. All the things we get to do, things we get to help people with through scouting. So, it talks about twice as likely to have a degree, twice as likely to get an advanced degree, doubling the personal income, having a good or a great credit score. And then my personal favorite has always been, regardless of where a scout came from, regardless of their background, scouting still was able to have that strong influence on their life. And so it's just so important for us to give all our kids the chance to join scouting this year. We have looked very hard at every zip code we have in our council. And right now we know there are places where we're not giving kids enough opportunities to join. And so our goals this year are very simple. We want to make sure that every kid has the opportunity to join scouting so we can have these many changes. Right now, scouting is needed, as we try to get back to a new normal in our society, and scouting can play a key role in that. And so we want to make sure that we are part of giving people a solution to some of the things that they have. With so many issues going on right now, scouting can really help us help us fix a lot of things that are going on, whether it's social issues that we're dealing with, development issues with kids. We want to be a part of the solution and really give kids that opportunity. And so again, just like everyone on here that was asked to be a scout as a kid, or if you wasn't asked to be a scout, we want to make sure that we return and we go back and ask as many kids as we can to join scouting this year. And again, it may not be for every family, but we at least want to give them the chance to join scouting. And scouting does make a difference. That is the most important thing that we can stress upon everyone else. And I will drop those two infographics into the chat pod just for your reference. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Martez. And Martez, as our Director of Field Service, leads the field staff, including the 6 of us who are helping with this presentation here this evening, as well as the rest of the support staff. And as you go into the breakout sessions, I'd encourage you to go so with an open mind and rely on the expertise and the effort that our membership team, which is comprised of the staff you see here on video, but also a handful of volunteers in each district, rely on what they've done to put into these campaign plans. They've looked at what we've done in the Greater St. Louis Area Council in the past years. They've looked at what other councils are doing and have done, and they've assessed the feedback from current and former Scout families on their experiences. So during these presentations, you're going to hear what steps you need to take to prepare for your fall recruitment campaign. And keep note of all the different steps and the due dates, but I want to make sure you're aware of at least 2 important action items right now. So grab a piece of paper, grab a pen. One is work with your district executive. to set a recruitment date as soon as possible. They have been meeting and continue over the summer to meet with most of the school administrators in their communities. And many of those school administrators have suggested the best dates that work for their calendar, their school, and their families. Ideally, the dates that you set should be between 2 and 4 weeks after school starts, whatever that is in your local community. We need a couple weeks to have adequate time to get in and promote to those schools, and yet we also don't want to go too far into the fall because we want to be one of the first organizations in asking families to join before, as we all can attest, before families and parents decide that homework or extracurricular activities are too burdensome and that schedule does not allow joining a program like ours. So we want to be in there soon, right after school begins. So that's one thing. Set your dates quickly. The second is to plan on attending your district's August roundtable, at which you will pick up a kit that includes a lot of recruitment materials, and you'll hear more about those at the presentation. These presentations and all the resources that we're going to be sharing will be posted on our website, stlbsa.org/recruitment. So it's our website /recruitment, beginning July 1st. At this time, we'll split out into our breakout rooms. As I mentioned just a moment ago, I want to reinforce that I hope you keep an open mind as we're talking through this presentation and what's being proposed. A lot of people have this inflexible mindset when it comes to Scouts BSA and venturing and Sea Scouts and exploring, that recruiting older kids is hard. You know, they say we have to reinvent the wheel if we're going to be successful recruiting these older kids into these programs. And yet all the while, they're not actually using the wheel that has already been invented. One thing you hear a lot is that you'll hear that these kids have been asked to join Scouts for several years, first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, and they said no. Why would they join now? We're wasting our time to ask them. Another is we can only rely on our packs to cross over Arrow of Light Scouts or Weeblo Scouts into our troop. That's our plan. Or we can count on our troops to cross over their older kids into a crew or a post or a ship. That's what we're going to do. Another is kids at this age are too busy with sports. Those are some of the things you'll hear, and if you go into the recruitment campaigns with those mindsets and those obstacles already preset, you're not going to be successful. And so a couple interesting myths about those three things that I just shared. The first one, that recruiting older kids is hard. They've said no repeatedly. Fun fact, the 11-year-old who was never in a Cub Scout pack, who joins a troop for the first time having no scouting experience, they stay in scouting longer than any other kid. So we're missing a huge opportunity if we don't try and ask kids who have never been in Scouts to join Scouts now. As far as the older Weeblos and Arrow of Light Scouts moving into a pack and troops crossing over their older kids into a troop or into a crew or a ship, we definitely want to have those opportunities available. It's important to have that path on which they can progress. But unfortunately, the data is out there that tells us, on average, Scouts stay in the program less than 2 years. So if you get a fifth grader to move over into your troop into sixth grade, they're probably not going to be there in seventh grade or eighth grade or ninth grade or 10th grade. And same with the troops crossing over their older 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. Unfortunately, the data out there, and we hope we can turn that around, but the data out there says if they've been in that troop for a couple of years, that's all they're going to do. You can't rely on them to cross over and that be your source of recruitment into a crew or a ship. Again, we've got to have those available options, but we just can't rely on that as our only strategy. And then the common one is kids are too busy with sports at this age. Well, another fun fact, and I like to always refute these things, if you took a group of Scouts and you took a group of kids who are not in Scouts, the kids who are in Scouts are much more likely to also play team sports. They can and do both, more so than kids who aren't. And so that's not something we want to have as an obstacle already set in front of us when we go out and try to recruit kids this fall. So that being said, some of what you're going to hear tonight is not new. You are going to hear some things that are new, but some will not be new. I'd encourage you, again, have an open mind, and let's actually utilize the resources and the plan that we talk about to try and promote and recruit kids into the older Scout programs this fall. Joey, I'll turn it over to you to talk about how we do that first.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it. As Mark said, my name is Joey Stokes. I'm the Gravois Trail District Director in South County. And to start out this evening, we wanted to talk to you guys about how to prepare for a fall recruitment for a Scouts BSA unit. And before we get into that, one thing we wanted to highlight is some of the staff support that we are already doing to try and help utilize the best aspects of scouting and getting information out to our communities and our schools. So we as staff have been working on community analysis and working on ways to engage more youth, visiting school superintendents and principals to help understand the best ways to get involved in schools and communities. And we've been creating new flyers with updated information to make it easier for families to join the program. As a unit, make sure you are reviewing and preparing your online presence. So go ahead and look at all of your social media platforms, look at anywhere that your unit is listed, because families will Google you and your units and review anything before joining. So make sure you update those online presences such as Facebook, Instagram, websites that you might be a part of, either your own or if your charter organization has a website they've listed you on, other media pages that are related to your unit. Just make sure that you look at those and you update those. Make sure you also update your BS Scout unit PIN information with the most recent contact information, meeting locations, times. This will really help youth and families find you when they are looking. And if you need help with that, we will have documents on the recruitment page on stlbsa.org that show you how to adjust that. Understand online registration and invitations are more used now than they ever have been. About half of our new youth are using online registrations. So make sure as you're going through, you're checking your email box for those new youth, those new applications that are coming through. If a family does sign up online, the system, just as a reminder, will only charge them for the registration fee and applicable new youth fee. So if they've never been involved with scouting before, there's that new youth fee. So just be aware of that and communicate that effectively. And then if you do have additional charges, make sure you break those down so the families understand what they're going to. So if it's for a book, if it's for the neckerchief, if it's for a t-shirt, whatever your dues go towards, make sure you're communicating that effectively so parents aren't just wondering what that's for. Next, very important step, prepare your calendar. There are several dates that are extremely relevant to recruitment. First being back to school events. This could be open houses, meeting the teacher nights, supply drop-off events, or anything else the school might do before school starts. Make sure you reserve a table. Offer your unit up to help by handing out school information, being greeters. My personal units, they used to be guides for the school. Bring cookies and juice or any other way that you can assist your school or PTO. Even being helping in the parking lot, helping units or families park that night. If you do it in uniform, it's going to show a great scout presence. The second date you want to look at, the official sign-up night. So consult with your district executive. Find a time in between August and September. And the reason we want to do that is we want to be one of the first options a family has. So make sure that you're working with your district executive and trying to find a date that works for the unit and the school. And your district executive should be really helpful with that. Also, the best day of the week to do it are usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have found over the years of doing recruitment nights that those are usually not as crowded with activities. Best location would be the school that you're recruiting from. The youth are a lot more comfortable there. The families are more comfortable there. They're going to know, if you say it's in the gym, they're going to usually know where the gym is. If you say it's in the cafeteria, they're going to be a lot more comfortable with that. Your district executive should help you with that, but if you have a good relationship with school, make sure that you are working with your district executive to get that set up. Also, make sure that this is a unit level activity, not a community-wide activity. You will be able to give solid information about your unit directly instead of a jumbled mess where we have found that parents and families, when they get too much information, they don't stick around and they walk away. You also need to set up a parent orientation meeting. This will help your families feel more comfortable when they join, along with showing your unit is prepared to welcome new families. So make sure that parent orientation meeting, you are open and working with your units. And it's also a good idea to have a good activity for your youth, their new youth, to go off and do instead of sitting around listening to all the important dates are coming up. And then the last important date of this is second chance to join scouting. A lot of youth might not have that first date available. They didn't get it in time. They put the flyer way too far down in their backpack. So make sure that you have another chance for them to join. So we also want you to include key activities in your information for families. So the number one activity that new youth want to do immediately after joining is usually camping, archery, hiking, or fishing. These are great opportunities for you to have your welcome meeting centered around one of those activities to where they can experience some of the highlights scouting has right off the bat. It's also a great way to give the youth an activity to do while you might have a parent meeting. Make sure that you're highlighting the district fall camporee. So check your district calendar for that. Understand that that is their first vision into a district event. I know a lot of us have been to many district camporees and sometimes we get bored with them. But usually districts are changing those up and getting new activities in there. And this is the first time that new youth are going to be able to experience those. And lastly, scouting for food. That's November 13th is bag drop off and November 20th is pickup. Obviously, that's one of our biggest activities and youth absolutely love doing it. Another important part about getting ready, make sure you have a goal in mind. How many youth are you looking to recruit? You need to make sure that you have a solid number and an attainable number, something that is going to help grow your unit. And also make sure you're reaching out to those families that might have stepped away during COVID. We want to make sure that they feel welcome and included. There's several reasons they might have stepped away, but make sure that you let them know that you're back up and running and looking to have and include their youth back in the program and have a good time. Last, make sure you get some help. None of us can do this on our own. None of us have the ability to do a recruitment night solely on our own. So start looking for those other leaders that might be able to help you. Look for those other leaders that can be a door greeter or can sit there and take applications or money. Make sure that they understand what their role is. And if you need help understanding the roles of the recruitment night, definitely talk with your district executive. And something that will be brought up a little bit later, but I really want to stress here is make sure that you have multiple ways to accept payment, not just cash or check. Make sure that you also have a Square reader. Some people do Venmo accounts. Just make sure you have multiple ways to accept payment so that way no family can leave saying that they didn't have an opportunity to pay. And one last final note, I wanted to say with your calendar, we do have a template available, a BSA template to help you plan your calendar. We will upload it on the registration site or the recruitment site, but you can also Google it. It is out there, BSA calendar template, and it will be able to help you. So that's what we have for preparing your fall recruitment. I think we're going to move now into promoting your program. I think that's Mark. I'll hand it off to Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. The big takeaway there is have all of this done over the next 7 weeks. There's a lot of preparation that needs to take place. But now that you have that done, or when you have that done, you've prepared to welcome new families this fall. You've set dates or opportunities at which families can join. Now we've got to let them know about it. We need to shout it from the rooftops. You've probably all heard the marketing rule of 7, that it says that it takes 7 interactions with your brand before somebody will make a purchase. And we can apply that to scouting too and say that it takes 7 interactions before somebody decides to join Scouts. But marketing professionals also talk about another measure today, impressions. You've surely heard that term. Impressions is how many times you see a brand or hear about a brand. And while there's no real consensus, it's easily hundreds, if not thousands of impressions that marketing professionals say somebody needs before they'll support your brand. Think about Amazon Prime as an example. Before somebody decides to enroll in Amazon Prime, they probably saw 27 different signs every time they walked into Whole Foods. Their brother talked about the two-day free shipping he gets with his Amazon Prime account. You saw TV commercials for Amazon Prime. Amazon trucks driving down the street with Prime logos on the sides. You saw tape on your Amazon packages, even if you don't have Prime, the tape says Amazon Prime. All those are impressions that help to convince people that this is a brand I support and want to be a part of and want to join and sign up for, in our case, for Scouts. So both interactions and impressions are important, and for both, we have to have the right message. It's going to be important if you're talking to parents. They are still playing a deciding role, even for these older youth programs, that you address the message appropriately. We asked parents what they want their kids to gain from Scouts, and it was different for sons than it was for daughters. For sons, they said, we want the number one thing to be developing character. We hope Scouts will help them develop character. For daughters, it was, we hope you teach them about nature and the outdoors. Interesting, in my opinion. Hopefully you take that message and you stay on point as you're talking to parents. When you're talking to kids, you got to keep it activity-based. You tell us a male of this age range that you can join and have your character developed, that's not going to sell your program, certainly. But if you're talking about all the high adventure activities, the shooting sports, the camp outs, and so on, the things you heard Joey mention that they want to do, they told us they want to do, that's the message you communicate to that audience. So you're communicating with both audiences with different messages. And you hear 7 interactions, you hear hundreds or more impressions, you hear having the right message, but let's talk tactics now. The best ways you actually promote your sign-up event. Over half of new families that have joined, they told us how they heard was by word of mouth, recommendations from a family or a friend. Above and beyond, the number one way that families who join Scouts said they heard about it was a word of mouth recommendation from a family member or a friend. That's parents talking to parents, kids talking to kids, social media posts by people you follow. All of that is so vital. And think about social media as an example. It says one thing if you're looking at a corporate Facebook page, a business Facebook page that posts a message about its brand, and it says something entirely different if it's a friend of yours, somebody you follow that posts a personal experience they're having with that brand. And so we need every parent of a Scout, every leader involved in our program right now to be making those personal recommendations, personal invitations, word of mouth, social media this fall. That's the most effective way. Now, below that, about a quarter of new families said they heard about and joining by a flyer, and that's even at middle schools and high schools. The difference, though, and many of you who have been involved in Scouting in the past, you're familiar with the way elementary schools are very easily able to send out flyers. They'll often send them to every kid in a Friday folder or something similar. How you get that flyer into the hands of a kid in a middle school or high school is certainly going to be different. That being said, that kind of plays into the third most reported way that families heard about joining Scouts, and that was a presentation at their school. Whether it's an assembly, whether it's somebody at the lunchroom having a table set up to the side, that's where you can get that flyer into their hands. Because if that school, and many middle and high schools will do this, they'll tell us you can put your flyers in our office on a table where people know community information is posted, or you can hang it on a bulletin board out in the hallway. That's not an interaction anymore. Remember, interactions versus impressions. That's something you hope a kid walks past, they see it out of the corner of their eye. That's an impression. We need to get it in the hands of the students, and you can do that at these in-person presentations. So I'd encourage everybody to do that. I've been recruiting kids for about 14 years now as part of the organization that I work for, and the number one way that I've had the most success for high school and middle school students is that, having a table set up. Now, it's even better if you have current members, if you have your high school students in your ship and in your crew and in your post, they should be at that table too. And hopefully they're the ones communicating the key message that we want their friends to join your program. And then you can give them the flyer then and there with the information about signing up. Each of these top 3 methods, I think, reinforces the other 2. They're going to be more likely to join if it's somebody they know, like I said earlier, personal recommendation from a family member or a friend. And then we want to give that flyer with the actual information about signing up. Throughout the fall, you're going to hear about promotion happening at 3 different levels. I said a council level, which I refer to as flyover coverage, some larger media markets, regional promotion, things like TV commercials you may or may not see, paid social media, press releases that we send out that may or may not get picked up, things like Google search optimization, and then Facebook geofencing, which is something we've offered in the past, and we are going to offer it again this fall. Now, some of that works well, and if you're not familiar with Facebook geofencing, it's simply targeting a certain audience and a certain community with a certain message. So if you have a venturing crew recruitment event in Smithton, Illinois, we'll post that on our council Facebook page. boost it to the key demographics that we're trying to hit audience in Smithton, Illinois, or that community, and that's how that works. But that's a high level, hope it works, hope it helps, kind of support promotional materials. Below that is your district staff members and district membership committee members. They're going to be doing a lot. They're going to be working with schools, contacting schools, doing school presentations. They may be distributing a lot of flyers to schools. They may be working at some of the superintendent's offices instead of the local high school, middle school for things like phone blasts, email blasts. They'll be working on media contacts in larger media markets, and they may ask for your help. And please support them for parents and leaders, wherever you can. Below that, though, is the most important. Scouting is local. Like I said, families and friends, those are the people that they're looking for recommendations about joining Scouts. And so there's so much you can do and you need to do to promote your recruitment event. Posters, community bulletin boards, attending back to school events, open houses, and personal social media posts, and posting in community Facebook groups that you belong to, posting in the Nextdoor app if it's a neighborhood that you live in, contacting local businesses about promoting Scouting on their business marquees, putting information in places where kids go, like libraries, family restaurants, asking your chartering organizations to help promote your sign up. For example, if your troop or crew is at a church, that troop or crew should have information posted in that church's newsletter, that church's bulletin, a sign in front of that church, and it's everywhere that church can help promote their local Scouting programs. And then another one we often miss, that I think is a sad opportunity that we don't capitalize on, is employers. Everybody that is currently in your unit, parents, leaders, ask them. Chances are their employers often have places that they can post community information or post activities that other employees may be interested in. And so share a flyer, share something with them that they can post at their employers or their place of business. Attending community events, Joey mentioned some of those. Another one that I'd encourage everybody to do in the smaller media markets where it's not going to be a contact from the district staff or the council staff, work with those independently, your local newspaper, local TV station. In particular, I've learned recently from many small media markets, rural in particular, the news anchors are looking for things to cover, and especially fun things. And one thing we'd recommend is if you challenge a news anchor, challenge a meteorologist, weatherman to come out to do something with your program, and they'll come out there excitedly and also be posting about the story on their programs. So a lot of different opportunities, and when you receive your recruitment kit at your August Roundtable, much of that will be in there to support you. We have a lot of resources for venturing and Sea Scouts and exploring, and we have had many of these in the past, but it seems like a lot of people don't know about them. And in some cases, we don't have what we have for Cub Scouts because, for example, you're not going to give a recruitment sticker to a high school student like we will to a first grader. But we do have flyers. We do have peer-to-peer business cards. We are going to have some other resources available that will be posted, like I said, on our website and also in your recruitment kit this August when you pick that up. And work with your district executive if you're unable to attend your August Roundtable. So in that kit, you'll have supplies that help you promote, like posters, but you also have things that try to help you make your sign-up night easy to execute. Things like applications and sign-in rosters and some signage that you can put around the room. So let's talk about and transition really quickly here into your actual recruitment event, your sign-up night. Joey talked about some of the best practices already, like the day of the week you should have it, and the location. People feel more comfortable. They tell us they're more likely to join if it's actually at their school. Even if you're chartered to a different organization, a church, or some other group, I encourage you strongly to have it, your recruitment event at the school. And like I said at the very beginning, if you have something that works in your community, do it. We're not asking you to change things that work, but the best practice is just a quick in and out sign-up night, not a sales pitch. Families have already decided. They've Googled you. They've called you in advance. They've read the flyer. They've talked to their friends, etc. They aren't typically coming out there to decide if they want to join Scouts. They're coming out there to join Scouts or to join your crew or to join your post. And so try to make your recruitment event is just a sign-up night. That's all it is. Quick in and out, sign up, apply, pay, get the information about the next meetings, and head home. So try to keep it simple, not only with the process, but everything. One of the reasons we hear families didn't join was because they were overwhelmed. with information, talking about trainings and wood badge and fundraisers that are 6 months away, and all the different things that we don't need to inundate them with that night that they sign up. At your sign up night, things you should bring. Obviously, bring the recruitment materials that are in your kit: application, signage, sign-in rosters. But you also will want to bring tape, pens, markers, maybe some change if you're going to be accepting cash that night. You might even consider putting together welcome kits. Put them in an envelope, put a little folder together. You can buy those cheaply at many office supply stores. Things like your calendar, which absolutely 100% has to be in there. If you don't have a calendar, you should not even be recruiting kids. That's another key reason that families said we're not joining, is they saw a disorganized program, no calendar, no activities. If a family of any age, if they sign up for baseball, they know when every practice is, every game is, every tournament is, and they expect the same from us. So have your calendar, put it in there. Have an application, put it in there. Have your unit's information about contacting and meetings, and put it in there. Be prepared. Joey referenced this earlier. This is important, though. We want to welcome every family. Be prepared if you are a unit that only accepts boys or only accepts girls, or be prepared to how to handle those families that may come that night erroneously to sign up for your program. And be sure you know where the nearest program is for them to join, and give them that contact information. So between now and the mid-August, I encourage you to reach out, figure out that information so that you have it available. And then another issue we run into a lot is families with kids who have special needs. We want, if we're able to, and if you have the leadership who feels comfortable to support them, we want to be able to support them. But if you don't, what is the message you're going to communicate to them that night? Be sure you have a message in place. And what I would encourage you to do is let them know we want your son or daughter in our program, but we want to work with you as a parent, and we want to work with our experts in the Greater St. Louis Area Council. We have a Scouting with Special Needs Committee. We want to work with all of these parties to figure out how we can best serve your child in our program. Don't let it throw you off, because we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to upset anybody. Just be prepared with how you would address the kids who may come who have special needs this fall when you're signing up new families. Making it super easy to join. So welcoming families, making it super easy to join. Joey suggested this and reinforce it. Have them ability to apply in a variety of ways. Have the paper hard copy applications. Have a laptop set up with the online registration. Have a QR code, which we do have. Every unit has a QR code that will take you directly to your unit's registration online. So you can have a big printout of that where they just snap their phone on it and then fill out the application on their phone. Have that available to them. Cash, check, square readers, etc. Make sure that they can come and pay. I don't ever carry cash. If I came to a sign-up night, I want to be sure and have the ability to pay through one of those online options, or know that I need to bring a check. And then another thing that's important is, if you're talking to families that night, keep it positive. Check any of the personal opinions that you may have. It's not going to benefit the new families that are there to join in any way. If you talk about the way things used to be, or the expenses, or any of that, the majority of parents, in particular with relation to expenses that are increasing this fall, the majority of parents, and far more than the leaders and who are involved, majority of parents still report that scouting is, quote, a great value for the money. And so they came out to join. They understand the cost, and they still think that it is a great value for the money. So we want to keep that message positive. That being said, we want to also explain fundraising opportunities that are going to be offered to them and how they can pay their own way. Let them get into the program first before you tell them, hey, don't tell them tonight we're going to collect all this money. Just collect the registration fees and explain later about how they can support their own way and the activities, the costs, and the fundraisers that are available as well. Things you should not do. I've been to hundreds of these from recruitment events, and the things that I've picked up on and heard from others: poorly lit parking lots. You drive in, you can't find where to go. Locked doors, uninviting rooms, no directional signage, especially if you're having your recruitment events at a big complex like a school, or even many of the churches nowadays have 5, 6, 7 different entry points. Have a sign that says where to go. I went to a school sign-up night last year. They said it was at this elementary school. This was a Cub Scout recruitment event. I went to the front door. It was locked. There were no cars in front of the school. I started to turn away and leave. And out of the corner of my eye, saw another building next to that one that had a door standing wide open and some families mingling around that door. But by chance, I was able to find it. We can't count on that. Let's be welcoming and inviting of everybody by having clear signage. And then don't overwhelm families. Don't kick off your fundraiser that night. If you're doing a popcorn sale, don't do that, or any other fundraisers. Let them get in and figure it out first. Don't recruit leaders that night. You don't know those leaders. You don't know those families. We don't know if they're going to be good or not. Have that parent orientation meeting that Joey talked about on your calendar a couple weeks later. Then you can talk more sincerely about about leadership opportunities in your troop or in your crew or in your post. And then another thing not to do, don't let families leave with an application saying they're going to fill it out and get it back to you. I'm not going to call them liars. Just stats tell us, though, that most of them do not, for whatever reason. Within the 2 or 3 weeks that you think they're going to take to fill that out, they've lost interest, they've lost the application, they never heard from you, they lost it, whatever it is. They came to join, let them join, make it easy to join, make them leave having joined. So hopefully they do join. Why do the families not join? We have a lot of data on why families come to sign up nights or why they're asked to join and they say, no, we don't want to join. The biggest one is programming. Lack of interesting programming, lack of a schedule and a calendar, like I mentioned earlier. So we want to be sure and have that available. Poor online presence. Joey said this, families Google you. They're going to, if they get a flyer that says join Venture and Crew 172, they're going to Google Venture and Crew 172. And if you have something that's 6 years old online or an old MySpace account or something, they're going to say, well, this isn't a program that's relevant for us. And so that may turn them away. Finances is a reason that families don't join it. They think it's too expensive. So that being said, explain financial assistance options that are available. And for those who don't know, a couple are available. If you live in Missouri and you receive Medicaid, there is a voucher that one of the providers anyway will cover the cost of the registration fee for scouting. So that's one option. And then secondly, in our own council, the Greater St. Louis Area Council, we have a tremendous executive board that has reinforced we will be able to provide financial support in the form of registration assistance for families who have need. So there is an application on our website. You can search for the Scout Reach application and have that family fill it out. And they can request financial assistance to pay for those registration fees. So explain those and then offer fundraising opportunities as well. You might even consider things like a payment plan for a unit as they get into the door, and then they can pay on a monthly basis. Don't overwhelm families. That's one of the reasons they've said that no, they didn't decide to join. Lack of communication is the other big one. They said they called the unit to ask information and nobody ever called them back. They emailed the person on the flyer and nobody ever responded. And sometimes we think, well, they'll come to the sign-up event and we'll answer all their questions there. I don't need to answer all these voicemails and emails. Well, they've told us, no, that's not true. They want to know before. They want some communication before and after. Otherwise, we're turning them away and making a poor impression. So after your recruitment event, what do? You want to visit your assigned turn-in location, and that's going to be different. You're going to hear about that from your district executive in every community, either a place you go and submit everything to, the commissioners and some volunteers that are helping out at that place, or you might have somebody from the district commissioner's staff come and visit your own program, your own recruitment night, and just collect everything there. But we want to tie it all up in a bow and wrap up that recruitment event, get all the applications, get all the fees, get the sign-in rosters, and turn all those things in. And you'll have a collection envelope to put those in your recruitment kit that you get in August, like I said. Now, we've had a successful recruitment event, hopefully. We've got a lot of new families. We've got to keep them. And so the last thing we'll talk about before we conclude here is the need to engage families and onboard them to help keep them and retain them. So back to you, Joey.
Thanks, Mark. So as Mark said, engaging families is key. So once we have them there, once we get their application, we want to make sure they feel welcome. So one thing that we like to do is suggest that quick responses are key. Make sure you're emailing families who come to your events or that express interest within 36 hours of the recruitment night. One, thanking them for coming and also providing valuable information such as your sign-up link if they didn't sign up, your social media accounts, your calendar, and needed contact information. So make sure that you're getting that information to them. Even if you make a packet and you hand it to them that night, it's always good to have it in an email form as well. If a family didn't sign up, make sure to invite them to the next meeting so they feel welcome and included. Letting them know when the next meeting is, what the activity might entail, and to that, I would suggest that the meeting needs to be active, needs to be engaging. just like Mark said earlier, we want to make sure that these activities really strike the youth's interest and the parents see that they're getting value out of this. It also helps keep the youth busy, and you might be able to have your parent meeting that night then. So that again just kind of keeps the ball rolling and makes all the information quick. Conduct parent orientation within 2 weeks to discuss volunteer needs, training opportunities, fundraising, purchasing uniforms and handbooks, etc. Again, make sure this information is on a handout, as it might be overwhelming for new parents. And this is also where you can review or provide a family talent survey to see how a parent might be a good asset to the unit. So if they are they work at a financial institution and you need a treasurer, that might be somebody who could handle that for you. If they are a manager somewhere, maybe they can be an assistant scoutmaster and work their way up. So really good use of the parent talent survey. And again, we will have that on our website, so that way you guys can download that and use that for your new parents coming in. Also, we said this before, but reach out to those families that have left and personally invite them to your next meeting or activity. Again, make it an activity that keeps the youth interested and engaged, and utilize your older scouts to help here, but make sure that we're reaching out to those families that might have stepped away for whatever reason. Let them know, hey, we are getting back up and running. We want to make sure that you know that we're available and still here, and we want you back. Also, just a note, if they are interested in fall camporee, don't make them attend on their own. Go as a group, go as a unit. It's going to make it a lot more interesting, and they're going to have a lot more fun, especially going with their friends. So Mark kind of touched on this a little bit, but some of the reasons families quit scouting meetings or activities were not well planned or organized, or they were uninteresting, and some ways to overcome this issue. We talked about it: create a calendar, plan ahead, hold monthly PLC meetings, parent meetings, and committee meetings, and also really focus on creating that budget so you can pay for activities. So all of this will help make your unit planned, organized, and well run, and families will not have that as an excuse as why they want to leave. Another reason, units had poor leadership. This is where we really want to use that parent talent survey. I know personally, I'm in a unit with my son, and I know how difficult it is to get parents involved, 100%. That's why we try and suggest starting small jobs, if they can take attendance, if they can be greeters, if they can just help set up the meeting, if you have to put up tables. But the big thing is getting these new leaders involved and trained, something that we're doing in our district, training dates and asking parents when they want to go, not if they want to go. That way, parents look at it as this is the next step in making sure our unit runs smoothly. We have GSLAC new leader guides, and we are going to have one for Scouts BSA this year. That's a brand new development for us, and that will be helpful to show the differences for parents that are either coming up for Cub Scouts or were never involved in scouting before, what a leader looks like. And we also have position descriptions for any leadership opportunity. Something that you can also do is if you have all your leadership positions filled and you really still want this person involved, make up a leadership position. Give them something to do. There's tons of things that people can help with and just kind of take the burden off. Make them an assistant or a co-leader of something. It will really help ease the burden, and the more people you have in there, the more hands, lighter work. And then lastly on this, with leadership, utilize that scout book function. Scout book is a great feature of showing advancement, of showing attendance, and really helping families even track where their youth is on the app. And lastly, families did not feel welcome. Make sure you plan the meeting to be inclusive of the youth, so they're not sitting alone and watching. My Scoutmaster a few years ago planned a meeting where we were working on a merit badge, and the new youth that came in had no idea what was going on, and they weren't included. That is not the right meeting for a first impression. Also, make sure you engage the parents and those siblings as well. If they bring siblings, engage with siblings. You might actually be working on future membership there. So make sure that everybody's included because we are a family organization. So, and this will also help put the parents at ease knowing that their kids, if they need to, can come to a meeting and be a part of it. Communication is key here when engaging with new families. Once a youth joins, the email on the application will receive a national BSA welcome. So they will receive a welcome letter. We are working on a Greater St. Louis area council one as well, but make sure you send out your own personal email welcoming them and giving them pertinent information about your unit directly. You want to make sure that they have all of the contact information necessary, all the calendar dates that you have planned, and any upcoming events. And if you do have other fees, just making them aware of those and what they can do for financial assistance if necessary. Because again, I want to really reiterate this. No youth will be turned away because of a financial situation. We will work with them and the units to make sure that they can be a part of our program. So all of the information that we have talked about, the guides, the instruction booklets, any of that information that we have discussed will be on our stlbsa.org/recruitment website on July 1st, starting on July 1st. So make sure that you're checking that often. The other thing, work with your district executives. Really make sure that if you need something, that they're helping you. That's what they're there to do. Make sure that they understand your needs and that they're helping you recruit these kids, because that is what we are here to do, is just help make sure that you guys get everything that you need. So with new families, just be nice, open, as we all are as part of the Scout Oath, the Scout Law, and we'll be doing great. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mark for our closing and takeaways.
Thanks, Joey, everybody, and for your time this evening. Just give me about 90 more seconds here. That's all I need. Joey mentioned a couple of things that I want to reinforce. He talked about families are going to walk away from your recruitment event. They're going to have forgotten everything that you told them. They don't understand the difference between a troop and a crew and the different leadership roles that you shared with them. And so one thing we're doing is giving you a Scouts BSA parent orientation booklet. We're finalizing that now, and you can give that to them, and they'll have that when they walk away. It explains what merit badges are and basically the basic information about a troop. Now, we won't have that for a venturing crew or an exploring post because each of those programs is so unique. One is different from another, but instead what's going to be most helpful is for your own handbook. I mean, almost every unit has its own handbook, but we can share the Scouts BSA or the Cub Scout parent orientation booklet with you if you want to add some of that into your your handbook. And use that, and we'd be happy to print them for you. It's just we found that every program is so unique. Fire post is not going to have the same parent orientation booklet as a law enforcement post, for example, or an aquatic space. Venturing crew is not going to be the same value in having one that a service-oriented venturing crew would have. So for those programs, again, use your own unit handbook or work with us, and we'll customize that and print it for you. And same with the leader guide. We're going to have a Scouts BSA a new leader guide as well. Now, another thing, takeaway here is, for the most part, families tell us they have never been asked to join a troop or a crew or a ship or a post. It's not that we are having trouble getting them to say yes. It's the majority, vast majority, 75+% say, nobody ever asked me. And so that's the key takeaway is we got to have an opportunity. We got to try and ask these families to join. And then we're hoping, they will, and they'll enjoy the experience that we offer. Don't forget to reach out to the kids who stepped away. We know they left because of many of the reasons associated with the pandemic, not because of issues with the program. And then again, 2 action items that I want everybody to be sure and take away from this presentation. 1, set your recruitment event date. Sometime 2 to 5 weeks after the start of school. Set that date soon. We need a lot of headway to prepare and get materials put out there. More than you really think. As an example, if you're just talking about printing flyers, a lot of times, we'll be printing hundreds of thousands of flyers this fall. We need a week to print the flyers, back up another week to get them out to distribute to schools, back up another week for the principal or superintendent to approve them and get a plan to distribute them. But all of a sudden, you're talking about a few weeks that we need lead time on. So that's the one key takeaway. Set your date soon. And then the other one was plan on getting your recruitment events at your fall August roundtable. So thanks everybody for participating. Don't forget to visit our website starting July 1st, where you can find the additional resources. reach out to any of us on this call, the staff members who help present, and also your district executive or your membership committee in your district. They're going to be your key resource for support this fall. Best of luck, everybody. Have a good night.